Hi, and welcome back to Atlas Crosses. In this video, we're going to be talking about top 10 habits of top performing students. I'm guessing you've clicked this video because you're aiming for top grades or you simply just want to improve your overall academic performance. This is the right video for you. First up, setting clear goals. High performing students understand what they want to achieve. They know exactly what they want to achieve. So it's important that you ask yourself that one question: what is the big picture for me? What is it that I want to do when I graduate? What jobs do I want to work with, or what jobs am I looking for? Do I want to start up my own company? Do I want to move on to doing advancing my academic career as well? There are individual activities that can help you get in there. So it might be that you think about acing all of your tests or exams and ensuring that you get a distinction on all of your modules. It could, essentially be mastering certain skills that would help you or take you closer to that bigger picture or achieving that big goal. It could be any of that. But the point is you have to identify the vision and identify individual or measurable individual activities that can help you get closer to that goal. So small steps, small activities could actually lead you to achieving that big goal. When I wanted to do my master's, I thought about what I was going to get on to doing after my master's, and I said I wanted to do a PhD. So I set that overall, that big picture, from that master's state to say, for me to get on to doing a PhD, getting a scholarship, I needed to ace my modules. I needed to get distinctions on my module, and especially I had to, get a distinction on my dissertation. But while I was choosing a topic from my dissertation, I was also thinking about my PhD to say, what am I passionate about? Where are there research gaps? And I try to choose a topic that I could potentially expand or carry on in a PhD. And that is exactly what happened. I chose a topic in entrepreneurial finance that I went on to also doing when I started my PhD. So essentially, you have to think about what the big picture is, what specific activities can help you to get in on to achieving that big goal. But just to say, if today you're watching this video, you don't know what the big picture is, it's okay. What you have to do is think about the things you're passionate about, do some research, think about the things that you have, you probably have talent doing something, whether it's painting or music or research or whatever it is. Think about all of it and say to yourself, what will I be happy doing in the next 5, 10, 20 years? And if you can see yourself doing it, you're happy doing it, then essentially that could be where you can identify your big picture. But it's okay if you sit there and say, well, I don't even know what I want to do. I just want to get on with being a student, probably graduate. And at some point, you will be in a position to identify what that big goal is for you to carry on with. As a student, there's several activities that are competing for our attention. And unfortunately, today, social media seems to be on top of that list. Many of us go to the library and say we want to study and end up, spending the first hour or two, browsing through our phones or going through TikTok or Instagram. Um, as a high achieving student, or if you're aiming to become a high achieving student, a high performing student, then you need to set your priorities straight. You need to create a plan that allows you to manage your time very efficiently. High performing students know that every minute counts. And there are several activities that you need to get on to doing for you to achieve your goals. Now, good enough. The phones and applications that we use can help us plan and can help us manage our time effectively. So we can use certain softwares and certain applications to actually manage our time. As a student, as a master student especially, and a lot of my high performing bit of being a student happened during my master's days. But as a student, I essentially had so many activities that I was doing on a daily basis. I was highly involved in student campaigns. I still had to attend classes. I never missed any of my classes. I was involved in student politics. I was campaigning every day for different things. But at the end of the day, I still had to achieve what the primary goal of me being a student was, and that was essentially getting through my modules and getting on to doing a PhD. However, all of the other activities that I was involved in were very dear to me, but they were also very impactful, not just to me, but to my university's community and to the local environment within where I studied. Now, it becomes quite important to know that as a high performing student, it's not about reducing the tasks that you have. It's essentially knowing that all of the tasks you have to be effectively managed. Now, I spoke to several students about this, and I did realize that essentially, high performing students were actually doing more than students who had less to do. And a lot of these students also had to work in addition to all of the other activities they had to do: family activities, personal activities, having to attend classes, having to engage in student activities, hobbies. They did all of this while still being high performing students. While doing all these activities, I was still awarded Inspirational Student of the Year twice on 2 different years. And I did realize it had nothing to do with reducing the tasks that I had on my plate. It simply meant that I had to prioritize, I had to plan, and I had to stick with my schedule. And that becomes very important. So remember, it's not about working hard, it's about working smart. I never missed a class. And while I did my undergraduate, I attended classes because it was a bit fun. It was almost like a chilling space for us. I just liked being around the space, not necessarily the fact that I enjoyed some of the modules that were being taught at the time. But there were dramas in the classroom, there were banters going on, and it felt like an important place to be every morning. So you wake up and you go to class because that seemed to be an activity that happened in our lives at the time. But at the time we got to when it was time for exams or having to do a coursework, I did realize that just being in that classroom, even though I was not always consciously aware of the teachings at the time, at the undergraduate time, but just being present in that environment was very helpful. I could somehow go back in my memory to figure out what was being discussed, and certain things got a bit clearer or easier to for me to understand because I was simply in the classroom. I went on to doing a master's, and I became actively involved in being present in the classroom, and that was the difference between my undergraduate days and my master's days. And the performance could show how different I was at those two levels. And you see, in recent times, classrooms are very diverse. Classrooms have people in certain sort of universities. Classrooms have people from different parts of the world. But even at that, people have different stories. People have different experiences. What happens in the classroom, and especially where you have a very good tutor that engages people to have a conversation, is that people share their own experiences, and you can learn from those experiences. Certain things we learn in the classroom will not be in the classroom resource materials, whether on being shared to the class. It will not be in the textbooks you find. There are unique experiences that people actually have, and those are people's own stories that become very special to the learning process and also help you assimilate what is being taught even better. So missing a class and saying that you're going to go home and read, or you're going to stay in your own space and read those resources, it's not the ultimate solution for you to become a high performing student. But it's not to say that, and some people will argue where they sit right now that, well, I didn't go to class, but I got an A or I got a distinction. It can happen in that way. Getting a distinction or getting an A does not necessarily make you a high performing student. There are certain things that people take away from the classroom beyond getting a distinction. Think about it. And linking up from our previous point is having to be an active learner and participating actively. Now, this is to say, that you're being active and not passive. It means that you are actively learning, you're being physically present, you're being mentally present in body, mind, and soul, and you're understanding what is being taught. You're taking down notes, you're highlighting additional resources where you can get on information, you're doing some research, you're participating in seminar activities or group activities, you're contributing to the discussions within the groups, you're contributing to the discussions within the classroom, and where you have doubts or questions, you're able to ask questions to the class, whether to the tutor or to your other students, to say, well, I do not understand this, or I thought this differently, and why is this information, being communicated in this way and not in that way? I had a prior understanding that this is what this means or could mean, and then again you get clarification. An African proverb says people who ask questions cannot miss their way, and that is to say that you should ask questions where you don't understand. High performing students understand that they cannot leave the classroom if they're not getting or understanding what is being said. They have to ask questions for clarification and to think about it. The amount of tuition fees that people pay today, you shouldn't, you should be keen to understand what is being taught. You should be keen to express yourself. The classroom shouldn't be a place where there's a power dynamics, and it's important that we actually demystify that right now. You should be respectful and create a classroom that is a safe space. However, your tutor is not the only person who can share knowledge. The power dynamic shouldn't be a case of, well, the tutor stands there, they're the ultimate individual in my life. No, it is a case that they understand something better than you do. They can guide you to where you can get additional knowledge for the thing that you're in that classroom for, and even more. But that's something you know more than that person that stands before you. So that's no power dynamics in the sense where you have to look at your tutor and assume that the ultimate being, and so you shouldn't say anything or you should be scared of talking to them. Bear that in mind and understand that you are an active learner, and you should participate actively, and that can help you become a high performing student. High performing students seek feedback regularly. They aren't afraid to ask their teachers questions. They aren't afraid to get feedback from their teachers. They would always send emails asking their lecturers certain questions, even questions outside the specific modules that they actually teach. Now, if you have been a student before, you might find yourself connecting with certain lecturers because they might have better knowledge, maybe from past experiences or from the interactions you've had. They might have knowledge around certain subject matters outside the modules they teach. So it might be that you want to know more, you want references, you want recommendations, you want additional insights. Do not hesitate to send that email out to say you want to meet with them, or you have certain questions about certain things, or you need a career advice. It's okay to seek feedback from them and continuously seek feedback on certain private projects that you do or on the modules that you do. Now, this is what you need to know. Tutors actually can identify from a mile away a high performing student and are always willing to help. Being in the classroom environment for several years, there's three broad categories of students I've seen. Now, the first is there are students who go through the university not wanting help. They just want to pass or do whatever the minimum is for them to get through the university. That's the first group. Now, that's the second group. They want help, they need help, but they don't know where to get help. In fact, they spend the entire time in the university looking for where that help is going to come, never really get the help, and then they leave the university. And then there's a third broad category, which are the students who know exactly what they want, they know what they need help with, they know where to get that help, and they will actually go seeking and looking for that help. They will knock on doors to ask for that help. Those are the students who are high performers. Those are the students who are high achievers. Those are the students tutors do not in any case hesitate to help. Those are the students tutors will think about when they have a certain project, when there's a recommendation, a referral. Those are the students that will likely have a very strong network that can lead them to the next level or to lead them closer to their overall goals. High achievers don't wait for exams to study. They don't wait for when it's coursework time or coursework submissions or when it's deadlines for them to study. They engage in consistent review and consistent studying. And in the process of seeking feedback, they're also seeking to speak to their tutors about what they do not understand outside the classroom. They're going back to seek additional review. They're sharing their thoughts around, well, this is what I'm trying to do with my coursework, or this is what I'm aiming to do. Am I on the right track? Can I spend more hours doing this or that, or not this or that? They are consistently reviewing where they are and the knowledge base they have at the time for specific modules and all of the modules and all of the activities they engage with. They understand, like I said, in point number 2, that every minute counts. And so when you've planned and organized your time efficiently, you understand that there's a time to study, there's a time to be in the classroom itself, there's a time to engage in the hobbies that you want. There's certainly a time to rest and to engage in all social activities that you want, and possibly get to work. So there's a time for everything, and if the time for study is there, it means that you consistently have to stay up to date and ahead of your study. What this does for you is that it takes away anxiety when it gets time for exams or when the deadlines are coming close. It means that you've started doing significant work on your coursework. It means that you have done a lot of reading before exams. So you're not scared. You don't have anxiety when exams are coming close, because you can even sufficiently take the exam today. If they put the paper in front of you, you have been doing your review every week and every other day. So essentially, you know largely a lot about what will come out in the exams. So high performing students will understand this and will consistently, keep up to date with their notes, keep reading their notes, engaging in additional resources, reading widely, and making sure they understand clearly and fully different subject areas and concepts. One of my mentors once said that I should always ensure that on a daily basis I'm taking in new knowledge or sharpening the existing knowledge that I have. And this included me having to read widely beyond even certain modules I was reading. Pick up a newspaper, pick up you're a finance student, pick up a document you see on the table around marketing, read it. Pick up a textbook you see around economics or around biology. Just read, read, read. Become a voracious reader. All of that, is classified into what we call the general cultural literacy, where you know something about a range of topics, where you know at least something about a range of topics while being an expert in your specific field. So keep reading and keep improving yourself. I like number 7. It's having a balanced lifestyle. This is a very important aspect of what you need to do. Don't think that for you to pass all of your modules and get top grades that you need to sacrifice your social activities or your family and friends. It's about balancing those activities. That's what makes you a high achiever and a high performing student. Being able to balance all your activities, having a social life, having a professional life, having an academic life, all at once, and managing all of them efficiently. Staying curious and inquisitive, it means that you have to be very curious about your subject matter, you have to be curious about different activities. It also means that you're not just sticking to the recommended textbooks or the core reading activities. You are going and reading widely. You are reading, textbooks that are not in the list. You're finding and identifying materials that are quite very relevant to the subject areas you're studying. At the time you get onto doing certain things like projects or certain things like dissertation or doing a thesis, you realize how important it is for you to expand your knowledge. What that does for you is that it allows you to be very critical. When you're reading widely, you're taking down notes, what you're learning is being critical. You're learning how to think, you're learning how to be more articulate, you're learning different conversations. And it means that, well, you've read one textbook, there's a perspective around the conversations in that textbook or that journal paper. You've read a different textbook and they're giving different opinions. And you're reading more and more, and you're realizing that when you have conversations around this subject matter, different angles. The reason why people sound more intelligent than others is because they're able to articulate different perspectives and different knowledge they've read. That could be the difference between you being curious, being inquisitive. It could be the difference between you and the less performing student or the students that are not high achievers. Point number 9 is knowing that as a student, the network you currently have, whether as friends, acquaintances, classmates, classmates, these are people that can potentially help you in the future. You're not limiting your network or friendship or interactions with just a small group of people. You're expanding that and being likable. You're understanding that being a high achiever and being a high performing student, tutors understand you. Tutors can see you from afar and they could potentially help you. Being in the university environment myself for many years, I have been supported by several tutors, and my career has progressed in the part it has progressed based on the network I've built from classmates and from with tutors as well. And so it becomes quite important that you understand that you're not just in the classroom to get a distinction and leave. You're also within a classroom and you have the potential to actually grow your network and have a support group. And the support group can start with, a study group. You do not understand the subject matter. There are people who understand it better than yourself who are in the same class. You can sit down with them, you can ask them for help. And that support group can help you achieve a distinction. I know modules that I struggled with. I know how other students were willing to help me. We had a study group for one of the modules that was quite difficult for me. And it did help. I understand what the big goal was. I knew where I was heading. And for me to get there, I needed help to do it. I needed people to put me through certain modules. And it becomes important that you understand that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to essentially build a support group and eventually build a network that can transcend beyond just the university environment. The final point for today is maintaining a growth mindset. Now, if you've seen the 9 points we've talked about, if you've gone through the video and you've gotten to this point, understand that if all of the things we've said does not apply to you or you don't have them yet, point number 10 is an opportunity for you to start. It means that everything about being a high performing student from point 1 to 9 can be learned. No one was born being a high performing student. No one was born being a high achiever. People built it as a habit. Irrespective of where you are in your current life, understand that you can build it, you can develop it, you can grow it. And once you have it, you always have to keep improving on it. So a high performing student can also lose track of being a high performing student if they lose the habits of being a high performing student. It could mean that at one stage in their life, they were high performing students, and in the next stage, they are not. It could also be the case that for everyone who is not a high performing student and wants to become a high performing student, maintaining or having a growth mindset could could potentially be your path to becoming a high performing student. And of course, that could lead on to you becoming a high performing individual, a high performing professional, is to understand that wherever you are in your life, your career, there is potential for growth. And just because you're still here, we have a bonus point for you. Off the charts is what I call accumulated advantage. The theory of accumulated advantage proposes that people who initially tend to get an advantage will continue to amass that advantage in greater proportion. So, Wherever you are today, think about the fact that what you receive today can actually mean that you receive more tomorrow. The knowledge you receive today means that you can accumulate more knowledge. The resources you receive today means that you can accumulate more advantages tomorrow. And just to put it in a simpler perspective, it's the idea that people with more money are likely going to get more money. Business owners who have huge capital can easily attract more capital than people who do not have. It's the basic theory about life. It's called the Matthew effect, as well as the theory of accumulated advantage. And that is something you need to put in view, you need to put in perspective as you get on with being a student and aiming to become a high performing student. If you found this video relevant, don't forget to like, put a comment below. Which one did you like the most? Does anyone apply to you? And don't forget to continue to show up.